Hello everyone, my name's Mike, welcome to Tech Car Moon, and today I'm going to be talking about the WWDC event that happened last week. Now I know that this is a late video and you've probably watched a lot of videos, but for those of you who haven't got the DL on the latest Apple news, this is a great video to watch. So let's just jump straight into it. So as you can see, I wrote a lot of notes regarding the WWDC event, and there is a lot to get through, so let's just start. So to start with, we've got tvOS, and there's a few key features that I think you guys should know about. And first of all, we've got multi-user support. So this is great, as now you can get Curator Suggestions for your users. This is very similar to how Netflix works with their different accounts. So depending on what you watch, rather than having one account and that has to suit the whole household, and then you're getting recommendations that may not be curated for yourself. So now what you can do is you can select yourself as a user, and now you can get curated results for what you watch rather than, let's say, what your partner watch or your children watch. This is a fantastic new addition and I'm really glad to see it. For those of you who also don't know, you can play games on the new Apple TV. But the problem with that is that you've got this tiny little remote and you have to try and play around with these games using this tiny little controller. Now, as far as I'm aware, there are third-party controller support, but it's not brilliant. And to be fair, not a lot of people are really going to be buying an additional controller. Well, now you've got controller support for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. This is fantastic, as a lot of us have these game consoles anyway. So the fact that you can connect up the controller that you've already got in your house and play Apple TV games is just fantastic. Really glad to see this from Apple. Next up, we have got Apple Watch and WatchOS. So there are some new additions to the software that you can update on your Apple Watch. And first of all, you've got voice memos. So this is the first time that we've seen this on the Apple Watch. And what you can do is you can literally go into the app, very similar to the voice memo app in your Apple Watch, and you can record your thoughts. In addition to that, you've also got a calculator. And this also has the function of a tip calculator as well. So you can go out, have a meal with some of your friends, select the percentage of tip that you want to give to the waiter. You can then divide it by how many people that you've got, and it works it all out for how much each person should spend. You've also got independent apps, so no more companion apps with the Apple Watch, so you can run them independently. Also, in addition to that, you've got an independent app store just for the Apple Watch. So no longer do you have to install it using your phone. You can flick through the Apple Store in your Apple Watch and you can actually download apps straight to your smartwatch. That is a great feature, really glad to see that. Another thing that is going to be really good for those of you who are on the go, let's say working out or running, you've also got a new streaming API. So for apps such as Pandora or any music radio station, you can now stream music from your Apple Watch. So when you're actually gymming, now you don't have to have a downloaded playlist. You can actually just stream straight from your smartwatch using, let's say, a set of Bluetooth earphones. Absolutely brilliant to see. This is a feature that I am very excited for. Moving on to iOS. So we've now got iOS 13. This is the new iOS 13 download that will be coming out very soon. According to Apple, everything is going to be running a lot faster. So we've got Face ID, which is supposed to run 30% faster. Also, in addition to that, we've got app downloads at 50% smaller, so it takes up less storage on your phone. Not just that, but app updates are also 60% smaller. With these new updates, apps are supposed to launch twice as fast as before. So without doing any hardware changes, Apple have really sped up the app launch speeds. This is going to make a huge difference for those who keep their phones for a little bit longer. We have finally got dark mode for iOS. Oh my God. This is probably a feature that I'm most excited about with the iPhones because we're seeing dark mode in almost everything else. We've also got an update on Maps as well. So this is only for the US to start with, and then other countries in certain cities. It will also roll out in 2020. But the nice thing with the new Apple Maps is that it's going to be a lot more detailed.
Here's our old map, and here is the new map.
We're also going to be seeing Street View stuff, very similar to Google. But for the rest of us in the other countries, I'd probably say Google Maps is probably what you should still be sticking with, as I don't think that Apple are really going to be rolling this out across their whole map selection until probably another 3 to 5 years. Next up, privacy. Now, as we all know, Apple are very big with privacy, and this is something that they are again pushing with their latest updates. Now, with third-party apps, they always seem to request your location. The nice thing with the new update is that you can just allow that permission once and then it will stop tracking after that. And every time you enter the app and it wants to request your location, you can then allow it every single time. So you know that it's not tracking you when you don't want it to. And for those who have continuous location tracking, you can also get a status report for that as well. So really giving you the power to track and see what these companies are doing with your location. Now, you know, with those sign-in sections where you can sign in with Google or sign in with Facebook, which does make it a lot more convenient just to sign in with those, as it already has your information. The problem with that is that you're giving a lot of information to those companies that you may not want to give. Well, with Apple, they have launched their own sign-in, which is called Sign In with Apple. And this gives you the convenience of that feature, but with less information being shared and less of your information being tracked. So when you typically sign in, your email address is normally shared with these companies. Now, if you have a lot of sign-ins, well, that is your email being shared with several companies. And let's say that you want to cancel one of your subscriptions or sign-ins, you have to manually do it. Well, now with Apple Sign-In, you can actually hide your email address, as the way that this works is that they randomly take your email address, randomly generate a string of characters with a fake email address, and each individual sign-in has its own email address. And what will happen is that it will still redirect any information or any emails to your normal inbox, but the company doesn't know what your actual email address is. Now, the nice thing is that you can actually disable these fake email addresses, and this company now has no way of contacting you or finding out what your actual email address is. So you never have to worry about spam emails again. Next up, we've got updates for HomeKit, and the major update is HomeKit Secure Video. So if you don't know, with video cameras, what typically happens is that you've got your camera, then it sends the video feed to a cloud, which is then processed, and then it will be sent back down with the processed video clip. Well, the problem with that is that these companies can basically do whatever they want with your raw video clip. Well, with Apple Secure Video, what this now does is it does all the processing actually with your, let's say, Apple TV, and then it will send that encrypted video feed to the cloud of your chosen video secure system. And on top of that, Apple are giving you 10 days of free video recording, and this won't go against your iCloud storage. So you've got huge amounts of video free of charge that Apple are giving you. Now, if you need a bit more storage or you've got multiple cameras, there are also data plans. Now, they haven't released pricings on that just yet, but if they do, I'll be sure to comment on that. Now, next up, Apple started talking about messages, and to be fair, it was mainly based around animojis. And to be fair, I don't think it's very exciting. New animojis, cool if you're into that. I'm sure you'll be able to find a video on that, but for me, it's not a huge selling point for messages. Next up, we've got a huge update on camera and photos. What you can now do is have a powerful photo editor actually built into the phone. So what you can now do is you've got powers such as what you've got in Lightroom, and you can edit things like saturation, vibrance, contrast, all of that straight into the app, and it's a powerful editor. You can now also edit videos and actually edit its orientation as well. You can add filters and do a lot of powerful video editing from your iPhone as well. This is just a big difference from the old Photos app. Next up, we have got a big update on Apple CarPlay. So 90% of available cars have got Apple CarPlay, and apparently 70% of all cars sold globally have it. Now this is a big thing because a lot of people have the capability of using Apple CarPlay, especially with the amount of iPhones that are sold each quarter. We have now got a new Apple CarPlay dashboard. This is a much better experience because what you can now do is you can have maps and music running at the same time from the dashboard, and on top of that, instead of your phone now having to keep the app running when you're using Apple CarPlay. For those of you who don't know, when you're using Apple Maps with Apple CarPlay, the Maps app has to be running on the phone. Now if you exit out of the Maps app on your phone, it also exits out of the Apple CarPlay. Well, now you can run your phone independently from the Apple CarPlay system. Now this is great because what this allows you to do is, let's say you've got someone who wants to play around with your phone, but you still want the Maps navigation app running on the Apple CarPlay system. Well, before you couldn't do that, whereas now with the update you can. You've also got a new calendar app as well with the new Apple CarPlay system. Let's say you're on a long drive and you just want to check your schedule for the day. You can do that using the Apple CarPlay system. And when you're using Siri, it's no longer going to take up the whole screen because now it's just that Siri little bar on the bottom of the Apple CarPlay system. So you can actually now see what you're doing even if you're using Siri on the go. This is a great feature that I can't believe Apple hadn't implemented until now. And talking about Siri, we've now got integration with third-party apps like Pandora and Waze. I can't believe again that this has taken Apple for so long to implement this, but better late than never. Next up, we've got iPadOS. This is a huge update and there are some really important features. We've now got new multi-window capabilities on the iPad. So now you can run the same app twice on your iPad. So you can run, for example, as the keynote showed, you can run like two Notes app at the same time. So you can copy things from one note to another without having to copy and paste and then reopen it and do this. You're not gonna have to do that anymore. This is a really key feature that I'm glad to see. Obviously, if you've not heard yet, we've got a proper new file management system. And this also integrates with Safari as well. You've got a new download manager with that as well. So now when you're downloading and moving files from, again, a new feature from thumbsticks or SD cards or anything like that, you can now do it using your iPad. You couldn't do that before, which again, with these iPad Pros that are supposed to be these powerful machines, with the iPad OS, you can now transfer files from your USB thumbstick straight to your iPad. For those of us who have got cameras, before you couldn't just directly import your media from your camera to the iPad. Well, now you can with the new iPadOS. I'm so glad to see this feature. Very excited. On top of that, we've got desktop class browsing as well. Now with laptops and Macs, if you were to browse, you would see a different version of the website. Well, with the iPad, now you can see that same desktop class browsing on your Mac or laptop on your iPad. This is a great feature. Again, lots of these are great features, hence why I'm talking about them. Last but not least, we've got an update for macOS and it's called Catalina. The thing that I'm really excited about is the fact that I can now use my iPad as a second display. So I can now get rid of any portable monitors or anything like that, and now I can just use a powerful iPad as my second display when I need it. And this is all baked in to macOS. Now I know that there's third-party apps that do this, but it is nice to see this baked into macOS now. And the next feature that I'm really excited about is Catalyst Project. So this now turns iPad apps into Mac apps. Now this will give a lot more synergy with the Apple lineup. So from your phone, iPad and Mac, when you now download an app across all three platforms, it's going to look very similar because Apple are doing all the hard work and making sure that the UI sort of all links up, so that when you're using the app version on the phone or the iPad, or when you download it onto the Mac, it's going to run very, very well. And it also makes it easier for developers to create Mac apps. So we should be seeing a lot more apps now working on the Mac system. Now that is a quick overview of the key features that I think you guys will be interested in, because I know that these points have interested me. It was a 2-hour keynote and I had to watch it twice to make sure that I got all the key features that I was really excited about. So I hope you really appreciate it. And if you've watched it all the way to the end, let's not make this a wasted journey. Please leave a thumbs up and leave a comment down below if you thought any of these key points that I thought were interesting also interested you. But until the next video, please look after yourselves and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.